Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Get a load of this, alright? This is from Wheezy at Nerd Nation Unboxed. Connections. Katie Hahn went to Stanford with SBF's mom and dad who taught her what she knew. Apparently SBF has been on a bit of a blocking streak on Twitter as of late. And I think the most recent person was digital asset buy in the XRP community. And I have a feeling it's because the XRP community is uncovering more and more as the days go on. She knew SBF as a baby. Now they've even invested together. FTX now is rising above the rest. As per Darren Moore's tweet from a few days ago, I kind of mentioned it in passing in one of my videos. How is it that we had never heard of FTX years ago, and then all of a sudden they kind of just came out of the blue and became this behemoth exchange? Listen to this clip.
Your story is really interesting to me, and we were talking about this a little bit backstage. So Katie actually went to the Stanford Law School and studied with Sam's mother.
And father.
And father. So,
they taught me what I knew
but they had
about
actually never met in person until just now.
Well, and for a couple decades.
Right.
Since Sam might be the first person in crypto I ever met.
She knew Sam when he was a little kid.
Look at how nervous he is, too, shaking those legs. Born on campus, Bankman-Fried was born in 1992 on the campus of Stanford University. The son of Barbara Fried and Joseph Bankman, both professors at Stanford Law School. Sam's mom is also founder of a Democratic super PAC, Mind the Gap, PAC, which operated in secret. So Crypto Leo here also mentioning, Katie Hahn knew SBF when he was a kid. Interesting. I mean, that's a solid coincidence all these years later. Anderson Horowitz and C. Dixon and Andrew Dharmakap. All connections here, all playing together, and then SBF comes out of nowhere with Tom Brady. Yeah, interesting. Building on these connections is clearly what these guys don't like about the XRP community and are amateur sleuthing. Nevertheless, it is a fact. Thought I'd bring it up, and I mean, it is no surprise. These guys know where the future is going and where the money is going to flow. This is why we are seeing huge institutional demand for cryptocurrency, guys. This one from Michael Branch here. Coming from a Fidelity survey, institutional investors plan to buy more Bitcoin, Ether, and other cryptocurrencies. Fidelity Digital Assets just released their 4th annual study on investors, or rather institutional investors in the digital asset market, with participants pointing to the growth in popularity of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other virtual assets in their investment circle. According to the survey, institutional investors are still bullish on digital assets despite the current market downturn. So if that tells you anything, still bullish on digital assets despite the market turn down. I mean, this is just one example. Bitcoin on the daily, and we've seen Bitcoin, now it's down about 69% off those all-time highs. Of course, there's going to be institutional demand in this region here. The best time to be buying, apparently. According to the survey, institutional investors, again, as I said, are still bullish. 74% of survey participants voted to buy cryptocurrencies in the future, while 6 in 10 or 58% of these investors have already bought digital assets in Q1 and Q2 of 2022, 6% growth from 2021. So, because the industry is maturing, because we are starting to see meaningful cryptocurrency regulatory clarity coming down the pipe, institutions are really gearing up. This year has seen an uptick in global institutional investors in the market, with Asia, Europe, and America all making gains compared to last year. Among participants, 69% of Asian investors own digital assets compared to Europe and the United States, with 67% and 42% respectively. Globally, about 82% of investors are diving into the market, with venture capitalists leading the pack ahead of hedge funds. Interesting to say the least. But I'm not surprised. Wanted to thank Michael for pointing that out. Just going back to the market here, guys. Bitcoin just chopping sideways, still $20,800, so it is up a little bit. Bringing up XRP real quickly here. Also kind of just doing the same thing. We haven't really seen much since the end of September, since that big move up for XRP has just been chopping sideways. So right now XRP is trading at 46 cents. And I should probably warn you about this, guys. This coming from the Tracker94 here on Twitter. Binance has been hacked, and nearly $600 million in BNB has been stolen. So this is one of the most recent incidents of one of these big cyber attacks. At the time of the writing, the exchange has lost more than $600 million in a cyber attack. All the funds in question were in BNB, so all Binance coin. The exchange reported the hack in the middle of October. And the event was instantly recorded and investigated by cybersecurity experts, one of which believed it occurred via a tricking BSC token hub. As a cryptocurrency bridge, Token Hub was cheated and talked into sending more than 2 million units of BNB to the hacker, which were worth more than $580 million at the time the event took place. However, it took more than a little convincing on the actor's part to get the money in his or her hands. Rather, the individual took advantage of a bug in the system to establish arbitrary tokens out of thin air. They were then minted by the Binance network. Changpeng Zhao did explain what was going on here. Ultimately, though, guys, I don't think any user funds were safe. If you do use Binance and you do, unfortunately, have cryptocurrency still on the exchange, I'd advise you to probably go check it out just to see. What I do know is not your keys, not your crypto. And so Binance is not a self-custody solution. If you do want a self-custody solution, you should probably get a cold storage solution. Anyway, I thought I'd just bring this to your attention because like I said, or like I keep saying, we are likely going to see more and more hacks. So you got to keep your cryptocurrency safe. Not your keys, not your crypto. Do not keep them on an exchange. Exchanges aren't robust enough, at least aren't yet. But, you know, we're starting to see that change. I saw this from DJ Peter Vass, DBS, to be the first bank to tap new crypto platform from SGX units. So DBS, I believe they were listed as an early Ripple partner. I'm not sure if they're still partnered with Ripple. I do know in the past that they've mentioned Ripple in some of their documents, mentioning that it was one of the most affordable ways to do cross-border transactions. This was several years ago now. Nevertheless, DBS, they are now looking to be the first bank to utilize a digital asset platform being launched by a unit of SGX Group. The platform Max Digital is from SGX's Max Trader, which provides foreign exchange and risk solutions for institutions. And here's kind of the key, guys. This is what institutions want. They're offering a trusted, stable, robust, institutional-grade infrastructure in a market that's relatively inefficient, still relatively fragmented. So this is the exact point, right? Right now, retail is relying on exchanges like Binance or whatever exchange, really. Coinbase, it could be any exchange. These kinds of hacks are not exclusive to Binance specifically, but these exchanges are just that. They are exchanges. They were created for retail initially. And because institutions are getting into the game, we are starting to see these types of companies now come out with institutional enterprise solutions for custody. And DBS is obviously not the first and obviously won't be the last. But as we start to see more regulatory clarity take place, likely more institutions, more banks are going to come to offer these types of services for their institutional clients. So wanted to thank DJ Peter Vass for that. This one from the Cryptic Poet, guys. Switching gears a little bit to VeChain. Yongpu, a Chinese brand coffee industry, selects VeChain blockchain for commodity traceability and transparency. So just shifting a little bit to the topic of real world utility. In a recent development, the top China-based brand Yongpu Coffee plans to leverage the nascent blockchain technology in a surveillance and distribution channel in coffee production and commodity traceability. And in this regard, it has selected VeChain as its best option. So a lot of problems with counterfeiting in China. And this problem is not exclusive to China either. I mean, counterfeiting happens all over the world, but China, I mean, there's a big problem there. One of their biggest industries, I think, and this is why VeChain, you know, they identified this problem, realized, okay, if we can create something on the blockchain to prevent this and, you know, to deliver a more robust supply chain management product or a system that could manage the product more efficiently, more effectively, this is where we're going to make the money. And this is why we're seeing so many partnerships with VeChain in particular in China. And even some of the big American brands in China are using VeChain, like McDonald's, I think, is one. And Walmart, I know, is one for sure. There's also BMW, which is not an American brand, but BMW is also another big partnership that VeChain has. Now Yongpu, they're selecting VeChain for its production management. The development was shared on Twitter via this influencer here, Eisenreich. VeChain x Yongpu Coffee, a leading domestic boutique coffee brand. They've reached a cooperation deal with VeChain Technology to carry out commodity traceability and channel management for its entire product line. So big news here, guys. Reason for the partnership. The CEO further noted that Yongpu will use VeChain in its quest to rebrand interest and effectively monitor the production channel of its products from the collection of its coffee beans to the final production stage. To further improve the downstream of the supply chain and strengthen the management of online and offline sales channels, Yongpu uses VeChain blockchain technology to effectively monitor each channel. The brand manager said. Further, Yongpu will use the VeChain network to track its production, warehousing, distribution, logistics, and transportation. And also, the brand will collate data on product market inspection as the product gets to the sellers. So, making sure everything is on the up and up, making sure there is no fake Java for the people of China who want their morning Yongpu brew. Anyway, interesting news there. Wanted to thank the Cryptic Poet for posting that. And guys, this is from the Wrath of Kahneman. Ripple user DLocal has announced a new partnership, a milestone with Deal. And so DLocal, been a Ripple partner for a while. Now they and Deal are partnering to support the remote workforce movement across not just Latin America, Asia, and Africa. So essentially three continents here. So DLocal, the leading cross-border payment platform connecting global merchants to emerging markets, today announced a new partnership milestone with Deal, a leading global compliance and payroll solution that helps businesses scale with remote workforce capabilities. DLocal has been working with Deal since February of 2020 when they selected DLocal as their payment provider, integrating DLocal's payout solution to enable companies to deliver direct payouts seamlessly into employees' bank accounts in local currencies with no additional fees for recipients. So this is obviously a direct result from running on Ripple. Obviously, they can streamline because they utilize the platform, leveraging XRP for that liquidity, no need for those hefty charges for the currency conversion fees. They can do this with ODL. They can do this on RippleNet very easily. And now that they're seeing their success in that department, they've decided to take it up a notch. So this is also a reason why Ripple partners are going to get ahead compared to the incumbents. If you have a leg up, if you have the superior technology, you are definitely going to be front of the line for when a bigger company, or even if a company that you're already working with wants to grow, they are going to trust you first because you've already delivered on results. And so this is the perfect example of what's happening here. To date, the partnership has unlocked more than 700 payment methods across 19 countries worldwide for Deal, resulting in significantly increased payment volumes and achieving a delivery rate of over 99.97%. The seamless integration has enabled the partners to scale rapidly into new countries over the course of their 2-year relationship. So since 2020 only, they have launched Brazil, Colombia, Mexico. That was February of 2020. By December of 2020, the partners grew across Latin America and Asia, successfully expanding to 6 new countries, including Bangladesh, Bolivia, Chile, China, Costa Rica, Peru, and Thailand. And then over the past 12 months, DLocal and Deal added 8 additional countries, including Argentina, Dominican Republic, Egypt, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Paraguay, the Philippines, and Uruguay. So think about that for a second, starting only 2 short years ago, with one continent basically focusing on the main countries, or rather 2 continents, but 3 countries only, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. Now they are expanding to 3 continents, adding several more countries, and likely going to expand that web, utilizing RippleNet technology, leveraging XRP. Obviously, the more demand that goes into XRP will make XRP more valuable down the road. And so, again, a perfect example of how the RippleNet technology and the success in the early partnership has fostered a new development, has fostered a new opportunity to keep growing. And this is what XRP holders want, because as we continue to see the partnerships grow and the technology be successful, well, this is what's going to facilitate more usage on the XRP ledger. Therefore, more need for the XRP cryptocurrency. So huge news here. Wanted to thank the Wrath of Kahneman for posting that. We also just got a recent update, guys, from Forbes magazine. This one, another one posted from Rosalind Layton here. Crypto Law just tweeted this out. Among her jabs at the SEC, attorney Jeremy Hogan, who has followed the case on his popular YouTube channel, says the SEC can only prevail with its summary judgment if Judge Torres forgets her first year of law school. Ooh, that's savage, says Jeremy Hogan down here, kind of poking fun at the statement he made in his most recent video. Well, Forbes has picked up on this, guys, and just published this yesterday. Crypto law experts suggest the SEC likely to lose the key case and discredit the Howey test, which begs the question, is this going to be a problem for cases moving forward? So a lot of this article is basically just summing up the Ripple SEC case. I'm not going to go over this, guys. I will link it in the description if you want to read the full thing, but it's basically the history of the case, everything that we know, the fact that William Hinman is part of this, what the SEC is alleging that Ripple did, how they sold XRP, Ripple, getting the Hinman documents of the speech, all that stuff. They even get into the Amicus brief down here and John Deaton. Right, it was just in this paragraph here, they first attempted to intervene against the SEC by asking the judge to make them defendants along with Ripple. So they talk a little bit about the Amicus brief. Judge Annalisa Torres accepted this, denied their motion to intervene by saying she'd spent time digging into legal precedent to see whether it was even possible for a party to make itself a defendant in the case, and came up empty, but she offered them the chance to file amicus briefs instead, sending a blunt signal to the SEC that real investors were going to have her ear when its presumptions of their motives would be pondered. In retrospect, with all that has happened since, anyone with a political instinct close to Gensler should have convinced him to fold then and there. This is where it gets really interesting, guys. Deaton's putative class of XRP holders has swelled to more than 75,000, among whom more than 3,000 provided affidavits to Ripple's defense team, stating that they had never heard of the company they were allegedly investing in before the SEC filed the lawsuit. Those affidavits were entered as evidence with Ripple's motion for summary judgment, which was a brutal takedown of the federal agency, at odds with its own mission to protect retail investors, appealing to authority granted in the 1946 Howey decision from the Supreme Court to argue that anonymous lines of computer code are investment contracts in a company. And so this is where it could get really bad for the SEC. Of course, there are the Amicus briefs and the attorney Jeremy Hogan, his comment if she forgets her first year of law school. This is the only way the SEC could win. But then down here, prominent legal experts like Kurt Levy of the Federalist Society and Professor J.W. Verrett of George Mason University's Scalia School of Law agrees that Ripple is on track to win the case. Worse for the SEC, Verrett predicts that if the SEC appeals to the Supreme Court, it is likely to not only lose, but set a sweeping precedent that would limit or eliminate entirely the application of Howey on cryptocurrencies, which defy the definitions of 1946. You guys realize how bad this would be for the SEC. Basically, all of their cases, I think, at this point, any kind of case that they plan on bringing forth against any cryptocurrency at this point in time is going to have to relate to Howey. Howey is basically the only weapon they have in their arsenal. And if Howey gets discredited, this means the SEC is over, in my opinion, unless something comes out of this where, they have to come up with a different test, i.e. the Ripple test, as some are presuming. A new test specifically dedicated to cryptocurrencies would have to come out of this, and in which case the Howey test would no longer apply. But I think at this point, the SEC is relying on the Howey test for so many of these different companies. And, in an ICO case, a classic ICO case, I could see how the Howey test would apply. But for many of these companies, they did not actually sell a cryptocurrency to help fund the company. So this is where it gets a little sticky, and this is where the SEC could really fail extraordinarily. So why is Gensler still letting his enforcement division drive this bus off a cliff, asks Rosalind Layton. They are litigators, but Gensler is ultimately a political figure. Politicians, Deaton said in a recent interview, are all about turning a loss somehow into a win and moving on. Ripple's general counsel, Stuart Alderoty, made it clear that they will settle in minutes, meaning Ripple, and pay a fine if the SEC will make it clear that today's XRP is not a security. And so this is the thing that the SEC is still really hanging on to. So some interesting insight here from Rosalind Layton. And I never thought of that point about the SEC, the Howey test. And if the Howey test fails in this particular case, that is really going to wipe out the SEC's mandate from here on out. Jeremy Hogan responding, why is it important that numerous amicus briefs, so going back to the amicus briefs, for example, or ABs, have been filed in the Ripple SEC case? An amicus brief is called a friend of the court, and historically, ABs have been filed only in appellate or top-level courts where difficult issues are being resolved. So we got to understand the history of this, and I'm no lawyer. Jeremy, this is why we're relying on guys like Jeremy and John Deaton and all those guys. The lawyers, the ones who have the experience in this. For all we knew, amicus briefs happened all the time. Well, apparently, they only happen in top-level courts where difficult issues are being resolved. So he goes on to say, and this is an interesting theory here, or hypothesis, I guess. As far as I know, the record for the number of ABs is 78, and those were filed in an abortion case in the 80s that made its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. That being said, is it normal to see numerous amicus briefs in a trial-level case? Definitely not, he says. The judge's liberal allowance of the amicus briefs in this trial case would seem to suggest that she understands that the issues involved are complicated, novel, and that the ruling will affect a large group of people and or an industry. So she is taking no chances. She is allowing these amicus briefs to enter the court because of the decision, the complexity of the decision. And Jeremy Hogan says, I think that is a good thing. So pointing to some clues here, the fact that the judge allowing in all these amicus briefs, considering it's not natural to do so usually, is a good thing, considering the complexities of the case, and also acknowledging the fact that the judge is saying, I understand that this case is complex. I'm not going to take a chance. The ruling is going to be the right one, an honest one, which to me also seems like the SEC's case is going to be derailed. And maybe the Howey test will no longer be applied to cryptocurrencies. This would also threaten the SEC's turf with regards to cryptocurrency regulation, and hey, I think that's not a bad thing. That's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.